Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Nest at DESU Radio. I am Xamara Coleman, your station manager, and I know it's been a little minute since I put a little heat on this mic, but it's okay because I got the perfect person to keep me sharp and to talk to today, warm me up again, Miss Kiandra Parks. Hey.
Hi, Xamara. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to our chat.
Yes, I'm so excited for our chat, guys. Like, this is, oh my goodness, we actually had the chance to meet at our Art After Dark event that we hosted in collaboration with a couple, with a mass comm class and an art class. So that was really fun. That was really,
you guys are really talented. You guys had some musicians there. Other people, one of your professors did an art piece that they painted. Yes. It was great. I loved it. And then I got to get up and talk about my film.
Yes. Okay, yes, because you are a director known for your short film, Black Girl in Ferris, and you're a Delaware trailblazer.
I am.
And you currently work at DPM as the director of Advancement, which is Delaware Public Media for those.
Delaware Public Media. So Delaware Public Media is an NPR, which stands for National Public Radio affiliate station. And there are a network of stations all over the country, and Delaware has its own. We are actually here on Del State campus. So we have a radio station here. We have a big satellite, and this is where we broadcast from. And at that radio station, I am the fundraiser. So I bring money in the front door, try to keep the lights on, keep the bills paid. And I really got a lot of experience with fundraising that I wanted to raise money to make my next film. So that was a really good skill set that I developed working in radio.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know the fundraising was the main. Like, I might need to talk to you about some things because, and yeah, you had told me even too, it was closer by like Towers where the counseling and the trail. Yeah, I think a lot of people, I didn't know that. And
most people don't know where we are.
Yeah. Okay.
But we share a building with the counseling department. Well, I shouldn't call it a building, a trailer.
A trailer. Yeah. Very.
But still, we up in that piece. So, it's all good. We have space here. We have a satellite here. And I just like being here. You guys, you students give me life, and I like being here. I visit Professor Perrine's class.
Yes.
I visit DJ Rob's class.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm appreciative anytime you guys ask me to come and share my knowledge with you.
Yes, and we're so happy that you came, and especially with all your accolades, right? Like, you are just an example. We got a little alumni wall. I'm going to tell them to put your face on it next.
You know what? I wanted to come to Del State, and my mom, I was a terrible student in high school. First of all, let me say,
you were close.
I was terrible. I think I graduated high school with like a 1.9 GPA. So you can come back from.
Right, it's never too late.
It's never too late. But my mom didn't want me to come to DSU because all of my friends from high school were coming to DSU, and she kind of felt like it was going to be a waste of money, that I was going to come here and not do anything. And she probably was right, because I was partying and I was doing a lot of stuff, that I wasn't supposed to be doing. So she sent me down to North Carolina to Bennett College for Women.
Oh, Bennett College.
Bennett College, okay, yes. Nice. And all female school. I was an honor student all 4 years. I got Dean's List. It was like just what I needed, to kind of straighten me out and give me some purpose. All the women that came through Bennett. When I was there, I had a chance to meet Coretta Scott King. She came to speak at Bennett, and she was just so poised and so determined in the legacy of Martin Luther King as his widow. And so that school just really gave me a worldview of what women should look like and should act like and should be. And it raised the bar for me. I don't know that if I came to DSU, the bar would have been raised that high for me as a young Black woman. but the bar was raised high, and I was like, okay, I have my purpose now. I know what I need to do. And Janetta B. Cole was the president of Bennett College at the time. She had also been the president of Spelman as well.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
And so, so it was a lot of legacy, you know, in the building at Bennett College. And I'm so glad that I got a chance to go there. And now my daughter, who's 19, is back in North Carolina. Well, not back, but she's in North Carolina in her freshman year in college. So, so North Carolina, it has this sort of this, you know, like growing up for me and for my daughter as well, because it's so funny. She's taking an art and humanities class, and you guys have seen my film, and you know, we've talked about my film, but my daughter has never seen my film. And so it's kind of like when you're someone's mom, they just look at you as mom.
Yes.
You know, they don't really look at you as like what you do outside of being their parent. And she was taking an art and humanities class, and they were watching a film, and she told her professor, she said, well, my mom's a filmmaker. And the professor looked me up, and she said, oh my gosh, your mom is like a real, you know, professional filmmaker. And so she invited me to come to the class and show my film and have a Q&A. So this month is April 1st, but this month, at the end of this month, I'm going down to North Carolina Central University, and I'm going to screen my film. Yeah, she's at Central. And it's funny because they call themselves the Nest too, the Eagle's Nest. Yeah. So, and you guys are the Hornets Nest.
Right.
So I'm going down to NCCU to screen my film for my daughter's class, and it will be the first time that she'll see my film, and she'll see it with her peers. But again, what I mean by that is like she's growing up, you know, and she's coming into learning about culture. And I'm so glad that she's going to a university that kind of imparts that culture, you know, and that humanities focus for her. And she asked her professor if I could screen my film for the class. So I know I digress. I'm a proud mom. But yeah, so when I come here, it's like you guys are like my kids too, you know, because you guys are kind of going through the same things that I see my daughter going through, and experiencing and exploring, you know, what it means to be an artist, what it means to be at an HBCU, and on the radio, at the radio station. So it's really cool. So anything that I can do to enhance that experience, I'm more than happy to do.
Man, I wish I like just made some notes right there. That's okay. I'm gonna do the play black, and we need to give you an honorary degree with the
at
this
please.
Point, right? Like,
I'm so happy. Yes.
But I like how you even mentioned your daughter, right? And she's learning these new things, right? She's diversifying, you know, her palette, because you know, honestly, knowing all these things don't just come naturally. You just gotta go through things, right?
No, she was not interested. And I didn't want to be like, you need to sit down and watch my film. You know what I mean? So I wanted her to naturally come to it on her own. And so this is a perfect opportunity. So I'm glad that I said, you went to college and got some culture, girl.
No, really, like, it's so true.
So I'm excited about that for her and for you guys as well.
Yeah. So what kind of was that moment for you when you were maybe younger growing up? Like, how did you know, like, film, like, art?
I didn't know.
This is what I want to do.
I didn't know. My grandparents, my mom was a single mom. My father passed away when I was really young, in a motor vehicle accident. So it was like very sudden and very tragic. And so I kind of lost myself. I got lost in Wilmington, running around the streets and kind of being outside and all of that. And my grandparents were like, we need to get this girl into something. She's going to end up, you know, going down the wrong path. And so they put me in acting classes. They put me in dance classes. They put me in music classes. And I excelled. That was something that I was good at, you know. And so they continued to pay for my classes and to make sure that I had an opportunity to experience those cultural things while I was in high school. So when I got accepted to Bennett College and I was leaving for college, my grandfather took me to a bookstore and he said, pick out a few books. I was getting on the train to go to North Carolina. He said, pick out a few books and you'll have these to read on your way down to North Carolina. So I went into Hanif's bookstore, which was a Black-owned bookstore in Wilmington about 20 years ago. And I picked out the book Black Girl in Paris. So I don't know if you know, but Black Girl in Paris is based on a novel that I read. So I read the book on the train on the way down. And I don't know if you've ever read a book that is so vivid in your mind that you can like see it playing out. Another book that I read that was like that was The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Soldier. Yes, like you can see it. You know what I mean? Like it really just plays itself out. The imagery is so, and that's how Black Girl in Paris was for me. And I had already had an experience watching the Josephine Baker story that was on HBO when I was a child, and it explored Paris. And of course it was 1925's Paris, but it was a place that it was like one of those places where in your mind, you know, it exists, but it's like you've never been there and you know, you can't imagine what it would be like. Well, that painted a picture for me for what it was like. And reading the book painted a picture for me of what Paris was like. So I got up enough courage that I called the author of the book. And at the time, I was studying theater at Bennett College. So I wanted to be an actress. And I called the author. She was a professor of literature at Brown University. And I called her up. I looked her up online and her number came up, her office number. And I called her and she answered the phone. And I was like, "Hi, Miss Youngblood. I really love your book, Black Girl in Paris. And I just wonder, have you ever thought about making it into a movie? It's so vivid to me that I see it as a movie. And I'd like to, you know, find out if you would want to make it into a movie." And she said, "Well, you know, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good idea, but do you have any money?" And I was like, "No, I don't have any money. I'm just a poor old college student." And she said, "Well, listen, if you want to make it a movie, call me back when you get some money." Yeah. And she was sweet, but she was like, "You don't have to pay me." Mode. Yeah. And Shay Youngblood actually just passed away last year. So rest in power, Shay Youngblood. But I kind of put it on the back burner. I finished, you know, doing my matriculation for my degree. And in my senior year, I had a chance to meet Spike Lee. And our students went down to Morehouse from Bennett College down in Atlanta. And he was there. And he was on the football field, and I ran out on the football field. It was halftime, and I took a picture. First, I was like, Mr. Lee, can I get a picture with you? Right. And so there's this really fun picture of us two on the football field. There's an article that was written, and they use that picture in the article. But I asked him, I said, "What advice would you give someone who is interested in getting into filmmaking? I read a book and I'd like to adapt it into a film." And he said, "Well, if you're really interested in making films, then I would encourage you to apply to NYU Graduate Film School." Wow. And at the time, a senior in college, I don't even think I knew what graduate school was. Yeah. I really didn't understand the concept or like what you would go to graduate school to do. So I went after the trip. I got back to campus because in those days we didn't have like smartphones and you had to go to the computer lab to look things up on the internet. And I looked up NYU and I saw that they had a graduate program, of film production. Film production, right. And I also noticed that it was not only the best film school in like the entire United States, but less than 1% of the applicants got in. Yeah. So I was discouraged and I was like, "Oh, he must have been playing a cruel joke on me. You know, I'll never get into NYU." And it took me 5 years. It took me 5 years to apply to NYU. And by then it had been 9 years since I read the book. So from the time I read the book and had the inception of the idea of wanting to make it a film to the time that I got into NYU, 9 years had passed. Yeah. I had a child. I had my daughter already. I started a family and I got accepted into NYU. So we kind of moved our whole life and our whole family up to New York so that I could go to grad school. Wow. And then my last year, I got to take class with Spike Lee because they leave that for your last year. You know, it's like you don't get to come in and just automatically get to meet Spike Lee. Right, you know, you got to kind of wait. Committed. Exactly. They got to make sure you're going to stay and, you know, you're committed to the program. So my last year I had class with him. I took my script into him. I had been writing my script. I had gotten a casting director who was in Paris. I had gone to Paris a few times to location scout. I got a producer out in Paris and I went to his office and I was like, "Okay, Mr. Lee, I'm doing this thing." You know, I had won the Spike Lee Production Fellowship, which was $20,000. Yes. And I had also secured some other grants and scholarships. So I had about $50,000 to make my film at that time. That's and really I thought I was doing it.
Right, went from zero to hero.
Yeah.
Like.
So he said, are you sure you're ready for this? This is a big, huge step. And on top of everything else, I was shooting on 35 millimeter film. I don't know if you know what that means, but it's a very expensive medium to make a film in. Most big budget films in Hollywood use 35 millimeter, but my cinematographer had just shot a film on 35, and the camera company Panavision liked his film so much that they offered to give him a camera for free for his next film. So he came to me and he's like, hey, I got this free camera from Panavision, $1 million camera. They're going to give it to me because they just want me to shoot something else. So I trusted him, because when you are working with people, you have to trust the process. And I'm so glad I did, because the film is, I made that film 15 years ago and it still looks like it could have been shot yesterday.
Yeah.
The quality that film lends itself to is so unlike anything else you would see. If I had shot in that on digital, you would begin to see like the degrading, the pixelation, you would begin
to... It's very clear. Yeah.
It's so clear. And you can only achieve that with film, and nowadays they have technology that makes it simpler. But anyway, I sat down with Spike and he said, I don't know if you're ready for this. This is big. Are you sure that you're ready? And I said, you know what? I will be back. I'm going out and make this film. And I left his office and I went to Paris and I made the film. And my producer told me later that he called while I was on set to check on me, like, how's she doing? Is she going to get through this? And she's like, yeah, she's handling her business. So for me, it really was about, I had a chance. I'm going to rewind for a minute. I had a chance before I applied to NYU to take a summer filmmaking class in Paris. And I did that because I said, if I like this, then I'll know that I want to apply to NYU for film. But if I get there and I don't like it and it's not really my thing, then I won't even waste my time. Right. So I had gone to Paris and I had done that, and I studied a genre of filmmaking called the French New Wave or the Nouvelle Vague. And just to give a little history about that genre of film, it was a genre of film in the 50s and 60s that became very popular. And in fact, you could kind of say it was the mother or father of the guerrilla filmmaking. And the reason I say that, because at that time, any films that were being made in America were being made in studio systems. So they were like big Marvel movies of the day. They weren't being made just like somebody going and shooting a film, on location. They were on film sets. They had the best actors. They were big budget, everything, all the things, it was there. And so there were these group of film critics that were living in, they were French, and they would write articles and critiques about films that were coming out of the studio. Either they were coming out of California, out of Hollywood, or they were coming out of Italy, because those were the only two places at the time that the studio system was making and churning out these films. And they were like, you know what? We want to make films, but we don't want them to be so I don't know the best word to describe it, but manufactured. Yeah. They were like, these films in the 50s and 60s, they were melodramas. They were very manufactured. They were on a set. They didn't seem real. They didn't seem like a real slice of life. Exactly. Right. So they began making their own films. They didn't have money, but they got a camera. They would ask their beautiful friends that they had, models or whatever, to come and act in their films. Yeah. And they changed the narrative for filmmaking. And so then that filmmaking genre took off, the French New Wave. And it was all about doing shots outside, doing shots on location. They didn't have big equipment. So they would like put their cinematographer in a wheelchair and wheel him around. And that's how they got like cool dolly shots of like being outside and maybe going close to a car and moving with the car. They did it in a way that was more realistic. And I fell in love with that genre of filmmaking. I loved it. It was new, even though it was an older genre of filmmaking. To me, it felt fresh.
Yeah.
It felt like
Different
something I had
perspective.
never seen before. But the only thing that I hadn't seen in that genre were people of color.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to tell a story that took all of the elements of the French New Wave, but put people of color into the situations. And that's what Black Girl in Paris for me was. It was an opportunity for me to show, as getting my master's in film, that I was a master of this genre of filmmaking, but I was going to do it and represent Black women in a way that, and in a country that hadn't been seen before. So
Because maybe that's not the first thing people think of, right?
it's not.
So
I'm sure it isn't.
Yeah.
So for me, it was breaking down the barrier of stereotypes, but also casting a new light on what a Black woman living, two Black women who were foreigners living abroad, what that experience was. So long way around your question, but that's how I kind of got started in making films.
Yeah, and I just love that because I feel like you're really kind of, if this was a paper, a thesis paper, because this is your thesis film,
Yep.
you're really defending why you did that, right? And then you even got the case to be able to showcase it in the American Black Film Festival,
Yes.
right? And then this is where it ended up getting scouted for being licensed to HBO, and then
Yep.
as well as Amazon now, right?
Yeah,
So
it's on Amazon.
this is a dream, like the
Yeah,
wildest dream, right? You don't
yeah.
expect these, like, of course you're like, this could happen, but then it did happen, right? So how did it feel when it was all happening? Was it fast?
Oh my gosh. It was, I'll say one more thing to your point.
Okay.
Not only was it licensed by HBO, not only was it picked up by the American Black Film Festival and Amazon, but there were also several universities that approached me, UCLA being one of them, a couple of other schools in the South that wanted to license the film for its lifetime rights so that they could keep it in their libraries because of the topic and because of the it being abroad, it being outside of the United States, and it being a topic that really you don't see on film that often. So my film actually lives in a few of the libraries of universities, and that was another way for me to put it in perpetuity so that it would live on, beyond what I saw. Now, when it all happened, it was like breathtaking for me because first of all, HBO, they like do it big. They send a car to your house. There's a man outside waiting with your name on it. They fly you. Oh my gosh, they fly you down to, flew out to Miami for the festival. Flew out to LA to meet with some executives. So they really, really, really do it big. I think I was in a dream. And I wasn't prepared. That's the other thing I want to say, because I don't want to make it sound like it was all wonderful.
Yeah.
I could have been a little bit more prepared. And when I say that, what I mean is that after I did the work of editing Black Girl in Paris and getting it into a festival, I was just gloating. I was like, yeah, this is good. They're going to be coming for me. I'm going out to LA and, and I did. All of that happened. But I wasn't prepared for what was next. And when I got in the room, they were asking me, well, what do you want to do next? What do you want to do next? What are you going to be working on next? I had nothing. I don't think I had thought about it. I was so busy partying and living the life and, the driver and, all of that. I never thought about what am I going to do next? And even with Black Girl in Paris, because it was a short, I could have written a feature version of the film. I didn't even do that. I was just too enamored in what was going on at the moment to really sit down and take the time to really think about what was next. And that was my biggest mistake because everybody was asking me, what's next? What are you doing next? And I didn't have an answer.
So in a way where you kind of like, the character of
Eden.
because it's like she wanted all the, like, she got there, she was living the life, but then you're not told the whole story,
Nope.
You're not told all the steps. I mean, you got there, but what are you gonna do?
And then also thinking also about that, it was like if you get in the wrong influence of people as well that may not have your same focus and your same goals, that can kind of deter you as well. And that kind of happened to me when I was living in Paris. I met a guy, fell in love, and wanted to move to Paris to be with him. And you know, and I thought I would go there and make films and stuff like that. But it's like, girl, please. You know, I was chasing a man, being in love, you know, moving to another country, doing all the things, but not focusing on what was next for my career. And that is where I went wrong, because 1 year turned into 2 years, turned into 10 years. And it was like, okay, what's next, Kiandra? What are you going to do? You've had all this hype. You've had all these wonderful things happen. But what's next? Yeah. And it wasn't until, and then I also had a daughter at the time. And when I graduated from NYU, my daughter, I had dragged her to New York. I had dragged her to Paris, and she was just a kid. You know, most people would think, oh my God, that's amazing. Most kids would love that life. But usually most kids just want to be at home with their friends and their family, you know, hanging out, doing regular everyday stuff. So she wasn't really feeling the jet set lifestyle. You know, she wanted to be at home with her friends. She wanted to be at home with family, with her father. And as a mom, I had to make a choice of, okay, do I follow my dreams and run off and try to be this filmmaker? Or do I buckle down and be mom? You know, and I love the decision that I made, which was to be mom, because if I had left my daughter, she would be out in the same streets that I was in, trying to figure out, you know, what I was going to do with my life. So I decided I'm going to pause. I'm going to put my career on pause. And I'm going to just be mom, you know, and I became a teacher at a high school. I taught fine art. And I just settled into being mom. But I tell you one thing I did do, I wrote religiously, because like I said, I fell into the trap of not knowing what I was going to do next. So I was like, if I ever get an opportunity again to get in front of people, I'm going to have not one what I'm doing next, but I'm gonna have about 5 or 6 or 10 different things. Oh, you don't like this? Okay, I got another story. You don't like that? One. Okay, I got another story. You know, so I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And because I decided to be mom, I had so much material to write about. You know, I'm not really in a rush to like kind of be famous and all of those things. I never got into filmmaking to be famous. That wasn't the reason why I became a filmmaker. I became a filmmaker because I wanted to tell stories, and I wanted to have a good representation of Black women on screen, and not only on screen, but behind the camera as well. So I'm not in a rush to be famous or go out to LA or do all of the things, because I had a good run, you know, and I had a good experience, and I did a lot of stuff. What I am in a rush to do is work. Like right now, all I want to do is make films. That's all I want to do. That's it. And sending my daughter off to college and knowing that she's in a safe place, I can focus on what's next. So I'm just finished writing my next film, my feature film. I'm really excited about it. And so that's where I am right now. I'm just honing, I'm tightening, I'm really spending time with my work. And it's a good place to be. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's so good to, you know, that energy that you put out, you can put it back in yourself.
You know what I'm saying? And it's you need it.
Yeah, you need it. And you have different, you know, roles in different parts of your life. So, you know, it's not a waste. It's not it's never like every story is different. Every race is different.
And it's so funny because Spike Lee, I gotten kind of beaten down on myself, and I went to his office and I was like, you know, Professor Lee, I call him Spike. But I was like, you know, Spike, all my friends, they're out in LA. They graduated from NYU and I'm stuck here. And he said to me, Kiandra, you will always be a filmmaker for the rest of your life. It's a gift that you have. Nobody can take it away. But right now, you got to be mom. You know, it's just, that's the way the cookie crumbles. You got to be mom. You will have your opportunity to make films. You will have an opportunity to do these, you know, have this God-given gift that you have to show it to the world. But right now, you just got to be mom. And I took that to heart. And I put everything I could into being a mom. And now that my daughter is off to college, I'm like, okay, it's time
You
to
did your
focus on
part.
me.
You're like, all
I did
right.
my part. I did it. And she's happy. She found her tribe down at NCCU. And so it's time for me to get back into the things that I love.
That's so good to hear. Oh my goodness. So like with all that then and your understanding and even your patience, right? So what do you feel like mentorship, you know what I'm saying? How important to you
Oh my
do you
gosh.
feel like that is, especially now you're at a college campus again, like what is
This is how I feel about it because so many women have, I feel like, have done the disservice. I feel like the generation before, like my parents' generation, they didn't pass the baton to us. They kind of let it kind of fall by the wayside. And I don't want to do that. That's why I'm here. That's why anytime anyone asks me, I will always give my time. I will always give my talents. I will always give something because it means that you're pulling the next generation up. And how are you guys going to learn if we as women, as specifically Black women, don't show you and give you our experiences? I tell my daughter this all the time. You can learn things secondhand. You don't have to do them yourself as if, you know, you have to learn you have to make all the mistakes and you have to learn all the lessons. You can use some of my lessons. You can use some of my mistakes and you can learn from those. So I am a big proponent of working with young people. In fact, I have a youth filmmaking program that I'm offering this summer to young people.
Oh my goodness.
So that they can start writing because, as you said, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a story. And even if it's not your own story, maybe it's the story of someone in your family, or maybe it's a story of somebody in history that you want to tell. There was one, and this is, I tell Dr. Allen that DSU needs to start a film program. I think it would be amazing to start a film program. But one of the things that really drove it home for me when I read the story about those women, those young women who were, I believe they were field hockey. I want to say. And they had gone down south. This was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They had gone down south on a bus for a game. And they were coming back and they got stopped by those police officers.
Oh, softball? Or...
Was it softball, field hockey?
It was, one of those.
But I was like, that's a story. That's a story that needs to be told. Can you imagine what that story would look like on film?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That story needs to be documented and that story needs to be told so that when other women are standing in the face of situations like that, they know how to handle themselves because it could have quickly went left if those girls did the wrong thing or said the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I said to myself at that moment, Del State needs a film program so that when young people are experiencing and coming face to face with these types of situations, they have an outlet in order to tell their story and they have an outlet in order to broadcast that story to the world. You know, those stories need to be told. So I definitely think that there is room for a film program here at DSU.
That would be amazing.
And, you know, even if it starts as something just as simple as like a film club where you guys get together and watch films and talk about them, I'd be more than happy to come and talk about films, you know, films that have inspired me. If you want to watch a really good film, it's a satire. I don't know if you're familiar with like satirical films, but they kind of make fun of the everyday world. There's this film on Tubi. It's called I Am Not a Witch. It's an African film, but it does such a magnificent job of telling a story that probably wouldn't otherwise be told. And it's by an African female filmmaker. And it's just so beautifully told and it's satirical so you can laugh at it. You know, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not too precious where it's like you feel bad by laughing. No, it wants you to laugh at certain points. And I think that would be a good film to watch and then have a conversation about. Now, it is completely not in English. So it is a foreign film and it has the subtitles, but it touches your heart in such a way that, because it's about this little girl who gets branded as a witch in her community, and how the repercussions of that has trickled down in her life, and what it means for her future, and going to school, not being able to go to school because people have branded her a witch. So it is, and it encapsulates so many things about, specifically about being a young Black woman, and having these sort of stereotypes having these sort of stereotypes just forced upon you, and you can't do anything about it. So if you want to see a really good movie on Tubi, it's for free. I just happened to be on Tubi and scrolling through, and I found it, and I was like, oh my God, this movie is so good. I Am Not a Witch. And I can't think of the name of the director, but I know she's a female African director. Nice. And so those are the kind of things that I like to share with people, you know, just moments, little moments in time, or really good films, talking about what makes a good film a good film. And so yeah, that's my thing.
Yes, thank you for those two recommendations, because I do love me some Tubi, but also even too about sharing stories and film. Yep. I think that is great. I have some film friends too. You know, we're not that here at the station, but we are storytellers. You know, yes. that's the whole point of us bringing people here and continuing to reach out to people who want to help us, and we want to help them because everybody's story is different and deserves to be heard. So yes. we really do thank you for coming today. Yeah. And
if I can plug one thing before I go.
I wanted all your plugs. That's what I was about to ask. So.
Yes, I want to plug my new project. I am, so I decided that I wanted to, like I did with Black Girl in Paris, I took the French New Wave genre and I remixed it and put Black women at the forefront. Yeah. I am doing the same thing with my new film, and it's a vampire genre film. So it's a love story, but it's not about the love story. It's about everything about vampires, you know. And I am doing a production of the script as a table read. So I'm looking for actors. I'm looking for people that are interested in working on the film, because I plan to shoot the film in the fall of 2025. So this soon. October and November. So if you're interested in working on the film, or if you're interested in acting on the film, you can visit my website at blackgirlproductions.com. Okay. And at the very top, you'll see my new film called Love Sucks. As I said, it's a vampire film. Nice little play on words. That's very cute. And you can go there. You can learn about the film. You can audition. There's a link that you can go to Backstage and look at all the parts that are being, read for, and you can put up an audition tape. But I really wanted to do the same thing with the vampire genre. I've never seen a Black woman approach the vampire genre and tell a story about Black people. Not like a story that could be Black or white, but a story that is Black. Like, you can't replace Black people in this story for anybody else. Like, it's Black people.
You can't replace it.
You can't, because you watch some films. For instance, I went to see the film this weekend, The Woman in the Yard. Mm-hmm. And it's a horror film. Okay. And it was good. I thought it was going to be so great. But what I realized is that this film, it seemed to me, it was a white writer and a white director. It seemed like they had wrote it for white people, but they just put Black people in the story. In the storyline. To kind of like sell it. Because, Black people in horror genre is big now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, if Black people see it, they're like, oh, I'm going to go see it. It just didn't work for me. Like, it worked up until the middle, and then it lost me. Yeah. Because I was like, the son called the mama B-I-T-C-H. And I was like, ain't no Black. That would have already, come on now. That was already unrealistic. Come on now. That is not happening. Yeah. So I just was like, it seemed to me like they took a white story and put Black people in it. Yeah. And I'm not doing that. Like, this about Black people.
Yeah. So happy we have your perspective. That's why we need more people like you. Yes. And y'all heard it first here. If you want to help in this project, as well as, be inspired to make your own thing, go ahead and do it, because diversity, baby. Yes. We need that. Yes. Regardless of what anybody else says. Yes. Period. So thank you again for coming today, guys. And And thank you everyone for watching. And that's it for the radio. See you later.
Thank you.
Okay, we stop.